provide employment, and demand that they start the transformation from fossil fuels to exotic fuels immediately and with utmost haste, which means also that they demand that there's full disclosure of what the people in the underground facilities know about the alien technology and how much it can help humankind, and especially and this would provide a great stimulus, of course, too, if this was undertaken. It doesn't have to disrupt the economy, and especially if the governments take back some sovereignty and print some money that is not debt. It can be a great stimulus if you have to replace a tremendously important industry with something very different over a very short period of time. This can provide opportunities and employment for thousands, tens of thousands of people, and good jobs and the kind of things that have disappeared. The main thing that the U.S. has been exporting for the last 30 years is jobs, and it's time that they created some good new ones for the people who have been displaced during this period.
Absolutely, Paul. That would be a good thing. Do you have any plans to go back into politics?
Me?
At the ripe young age of 87?
No, I think there would be people in my family who would say, "Do we have some way we can chain him?"
Yeah, really. What do you think of Ron Paul here in the United States?
Well, I think he's brave to smoke out from Bernanke how money is created, and that the 1.2 trillion or whatever it was just created out of thin air. I'm not sure about his. I'm with him totally that it would be a good idea to get rid of the Fed and replace it with something. I think maybe we may have some differences on what we would replace it with. I have a few things to say about that in the book. Incidentally, in this book, right at the end of the tunnel, I just have one chapter on the money thing, and from some of my readers who've gone through it already, I think that was tested their tolerance to the maximum extent. But for anyone who studied economics and who really wants to know what is behind the radical proposition that I have in Light at the End of the Tunnel, this other book, A Miracle in Waiting, is one that would give you answers and which would, I think, present some points of view that you didn't get at university if you were studying economics, and you'd probably find them interesting and a bit thought-provoking, I think.
All right, let's go to Steve in Windsor, California. There you go. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, George, and may I say it's always an honor to participate, especially on a show that covers such a serious topic as this. Good evening, Mr. Hilliard.
Good evening.
Honored also to speak with you. A quick comment and then a couple of questions to follow. I have been listening to this show for a long time since I work at night, and I tend to want to subscribe to the suspicions of those out there, other authors and who deal with the phenomenon, such as Dr. David Jacobs, who are starting to put the pieces together and are suggesting that there just might be a mechanism to this ET phenomenon whereby they are collectively working with certain human beings to create a resistance to maybe others that are going to come later, such as from a heavenly realm, to try to protect the powers that be in this current world system from, say, the collapse of and or the, as our biblical paradigms would suggest, a new system to come. Given your in-depth understanding of this situation, do you tend to feel or believe that this particular phenomenon is following our biblical paradigms, such as the Revelation prophecies, or do you think that our biblical paradigms are essentially outdated and don't follow this at all?
Let's get that question, Paul, when we come right back on Coast to Coast AM. I've got to tell you, Paul Hellyer, he's chock full of a lot of information. His work, Light at the End of the Tunnel. And we'll come back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM with final phone calls. Don't go away. Paul, when you first began to believe in the ET presence, did it surprise you? Did it shock you? How did it affect you?
I guess it just confirmed how little I knew. One of my lines in the book is, I didn't know how much I didn't know because I didn't know how much there was to know. And that is, I think, true of all of us, that no matter how much we read and listen and learn, what we do is find out almost daily that there's still more to learn and more to find out about. And so it was just walking down a path that I hadn't planned to walk down, but it's been very fascinating, and the further I go, the more fascinating it gets. I think if I had been faced in the first few days or weeks of my serious study of the subject with all of the information that I have now, I would have been shocked, or I would have been full of disbelief, I think. So it's been a gradual process, and that's the reason that in my book I just put in things that are relatively straightforward without going too much into ethereal things. But I've really it's been a revelation to me, and of course there are other revelations, and I just appreciate very much the fact that Pierre Juno pushed me in this direction a few years ago.
Well, let's go back to Steve in Windsor, California. Steve, I'll let you wrap up again with your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'll try to summarize and be much more brief. So I am just wondering if the overall ET phenomenon seems to be following a pattern that would fit as more and more professionals and get involved with this phenomenon, would fit the paradigm of our religious paradigms of say of a Revelations prophecy, or the incorporation of ETs as angels, and the ETs working with humans that are in power on the planet now to, say, create an army or a future army to fight against, say, another group of ETs or a heavenly realm of ETs who are going to come down and, as prophecy would say, turn the tides on this existing world power and set up a new world order, one more, in line with God's will. Do you feel that that's something that's happening now, or are spiritual paradigms just outdated and really don't apply anywhere with this ET phenomenon as you understand it?
Well, I have read the Bible from cover to cover 3 times, though I don't claim to be a scholar. And I think my conclusion is that I take it very seriously, but I don't take it literally in many cases. Mm-hmm. And so I'm skeptical about these things, quite skeptical, and I keep thinking about the end times. They have been forecast, for 2,000 years. And I read about people who have taken them so seriously that they have sold all of their belongings and gone up to the top of the hill and waited for somebody to come and get them. And my approach is, because I don't know what the future holds, I have to assume that it's going to be very much like the past, that we're going to keep on going on. Mm-hmm. And that what we really should do is try to evolve spiritually more quickly than we have in the past, and in this sense, learn both some of the lessons from the Bible and the lessons perhaps from some of the ETs. One of my chapters is based on a tour of the Middle East, a discovery a tour of the Middle East, and I visited Medigo, where the legendary final battle of Armageddon is supposed to be fought, and my impression was, I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I just, I don't say it's impossible, but I think the odds are 100,000 to 1 that it will not be there. And so I'm more concerned, frankly, with getting on with what I call building the kingdom of God on earth, with the help of whoever will help, and the enlightenment of people who take spiritual things seriously. And one of the conclusions that I come to in the book in the short religious section is that the golden rule is fundamental in one of its interpretations to all of the major religions, and that if we all practiced it, if we all had the capability of practicing it, which of course is very difficult because it challenges our human nature, then we could revolutionize the world, and it would be a different world than it is today. So how that fits in with the ETs, I really don't know, except I think we have to learn from them, not just the technology that we can use to kill each other more effectively, or maybe to fly off to other star systems, but to build the kind of world that God would want us to have, one where we're good stewards not only of the planet, but where we care for his widows and orphans and give them the kind of treatment that the Bible seems to say is so important all the way through, right from the beginning.
Paul, what is it about these power elitists where they have everything they want, but they continue to want more money, more power, more control? What is it? Is it a game for them?
It's both. It's greed, one of the 7 deadly sins, as so described. But it's monopoly game too. They want to run everything. And I have a chapter in the book, as you know, called "Mammon Rules the World." And those of you who have studied the Bible know that Jesus said that you can't serve God and mammon. And at the moment we're serving mammon. And so part of the transition that has to occur to achieve the kinds of things that we want, the kinds of world we want, is to stop worshiping mammon, and that, of course, affects the banking system and letting a power elite make our decisions for us instead of letting some of them be made by ourselves, and all of this sort of thing. So there is a very definite connection here between the evolution towards spirituality, which I hope will speed up very quickly in the months and years ahead, and it, I'm sure, has some connection of some sort to what the kinds of signals we'll get from people from other planets, but just exactly what they are, I really can't say.
Okay, back to the calls we go. Eau Claire, Wisconsin, east of the Rockies. Go ahead, Tim.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Good.
It is truly an honor to speak to both of you. I guess my question tonight is, what is the wisdom of, for all practical purposes, paring down our military-industrial complex if, by some chance, a hostile race decides to come to Earth and take us over? I mean, when we want a strong defense in case that happens?
I think it's your hypothesis that has to be questioned, and we don't know who that would be that was going to come down and take us over, who didn't do it 20 years ago when they could have.
Well, maybe they haven't found us yet.
They haven't found us yet.
Right. Maybe that race that could possibly do us in, hasn't discovered that little blue ball, floating in space that looks like it'd be an interesting place to, make into a